As we begin what's trending in Nigeria in the wake of the arrest of the acting chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ibrahim Magu, some protesters took to the streets of Abuja on Wednesday to demand the arrest of the national leader of the All Progressive Congress, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, over 2 bullion vans believed to be conveying cash seen at his residence on the eve of the 2019 general election. In February 2019, viral pictures on social media showed the 2 bullion vans being driven into Tinubu's residence as many people looked on outside the premises. Nigerians on Twitter have reacted to the protests. Well, let's take some tweets. One user wrote, "Magu has been protecting Tinubu. EFCC has looked away from all petitions against him and Alpha Beta. But I found out that Magu has been sleeping in police custody alone. There's a lesson there. I hope others like Magu protecting corrupt leaders will learn." Another user commenting on the protest wrote, "Long overdue. Not just Tinubu, other corrupt politicians also need to be investigated. I believe the time is now to clamor for this if we really need good governance, and it shouldn't be politicized. Nigeria will be great again." Finally, a user wrote, 2023 protests against Tinubu in Abuja. Tinubu, who has not held political appointment or occupied elective positions since 2007, continued to be the greatest headache for some people. No wonder they can't comprehend the man's politics while he continues to defeat them always. I mean, I don't know what these protesters were thinking. I mean, this happened last year, and the national leader has come out to say that the cash that was in the bullion van was his. I mean, is there any law that prevents people from carrying bullion vans around? I mean, I don't know, Tundu.
Well, what he said was that it's his own money, yes, and he can put it wherever he likes.
Yes.
However, as the national leader of the ruling party, around election time, you cannot do that.
Okay.
You really, no, well, he can because he did.
Exactly.
The correct thing to say is that he mustn't do that. Okay. It looks really bad. We have laws against vote buying in Nigeria. It actually carries a prison term.
Okay, so it's because it happened at the eve
Yes,
of the...
it looks bad.
Okay.
So it's not to suggest, because I don't know what he used the money for, I don't live in his house. It's not to suggest that it was used for vote buying, but it looks really bad. A person in his position should be seen, well, Caesar's wife must be above suspicion. APC national leader must be above suspicion. Everybody occupying a certain position. So it's a bad look. However, this protest makes absolutely no sense to me right now. I mean, it's like the last tweet that you read.
Yes.
It seems to me like some kind of a plan to undermine Asiwaju Tinubu, although he himself has said he doesn't understand why people attack this 2023 political plan because he hasn't come out to announce one. Okay. But there appears to be a concerted effort to dampen it before it even gets started.
Right.
Well, clearly the protest against Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is mischievous, it is opportunistic, and the timing of it is suspicious. And it is as follows. When in the lead up to the election in 2019, in February 2019, it was reported that a bullion van was sighted in his compound. He had, as Tundu has pointed out, clarified it, that he has every right as a citizen to carry his money the way he deems fit. And there is no evidence that he used the money to buy votes or to influence the electoral process. Since that time, he has not been a candidate in any election, and he has not held any official government position. And now for people to come out and say that he should be probed, targeting him looks like a political thing. And those who have said that the travails of Ibrahim Magu of the EFCC is a fallout of power play will now find very strong justification in this to say that truly there is power play, because within a space of 72 hours, some characters have jumped from Magu to allegations against Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I think we should make the point that the government of the day should not allow itself to be stampeded to witch hunt anybody or to intimidate anybody. But you know, in politics, all kinds of things happen. And those who say that this is all about 2023, they probably will say, look, their position is justified.
Yes.
And there is nowhere that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has said that he's running for the position of president in 2023. And of course, maybe some people are trying to stop him from declaring his interest in that office.
Yes.
But every Nigerian that meets the requirements for running for office can show interest in the presidency of Nigeria or any other position. But as they say, politics is very tough territory, and anything can happen there. But I'm sure that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu understands the system well enough to know where this is coming from,
right,
and how to check it.
Very good. Like Dr. Abati pointed out, there are allegations that this was almost like a paid protest to stop the national leader from going forward for his 2020 presidency, which he has not even 2023 presidency, which he has not even acknowledged. What is your take on that, Rufai?
Very funny. I mean, very funny trend in the country as we speak today. But to a large extent, you know, that's some level of sour grapes. I mean, if the protest was genuine from there, why did they protest while the elections were on, while they saw that picture? It's just all politics. And you know, the very funny thing in this country is that it's so easy to rent a crowd in this country to form any protest. And that's a very shocking trend. And it's an indication of people that are not doing too many things that need to be engaged. But this is all political. The man hasn't come out to say he's running for 2023. Let this man come out and you can start to shoot all your shots, like they say in local parlance. But it's all in the air. Politics season is out there. But the painful thing is, while we are politicking, let's not also forget the plight of a lot of Nigerians that are dying from COVID-19 and that need help this season, that are losing their jobs. I have not heard of people coming out to protest about furlough schemes and saying, okay, why can't Nigeria give people that have lost their jobs or companies a furlough scheme so that they can sack workers and things like that. I have not heard about people coming to protest, you know, about palliatives, you know, for the working class or for people that have lost their jobs in Nigeria. Then we are talking about Bullion Van last of 2019. It's funny. It's very funny to me. Very funny.
Very well said, Rufai. Let's take another story still in Nigeria. The indigenous people of Biafra on Tuesday claimed to be in talks with the United Nations to hold a referendum for a sovereign state of Biafra. In a statement by the group's media and publicity secretary, Ima Powerful, the group is making efforts for the referendum any moment soon, adding that residents within the Biafra territory and those living beyond the boundaries of Biafra will be able to determine their own fate. The group expects the United Nations to supervise the referendum and are calling for freedom for all and not just for Biafrans alone. I mean, this is another, what do you call it, Brexit?
Yes.
How is it possible to have a sovereign state without any form of, you know, partition? I mean, I would like to know, how does that work?
It's possible.
Okay.
You can have, these are called, there are different types of referendums. These ones are called independence referendums. And an independence referendum does not actually need the consent of the national government. What tends to happen is if there's some kind of separatist movement, and that separatist movement get support maybe at an election, they can now use that momentum to demand a referendum, not even of the national, or in our case, the federal government, just of their own people.
Okay.
They put a question on the ballot and people answer the question and they vote. And the United Nations will not call a referendum. Every country has their sovereignty. The United Nations will supervise, they'll observe if they're told to, they'll monitor a referendum if they're asked to. The United Nations is also relevant if the referendum succeeds and maybe the national government doesn't want to apply, you know, the results of the referendum. The United Nations can come in and recognize that country as an independent country to give that referendum credence. So, yeah.
So then what happens to the people that are not in support of the sovereign state of Biafra, that are in that territory as well? What happens?
I'm speaking hypothetically.
Yes.
The referendum might not even happen because, like I said, it usually happens on the back of a popular movement. There has to be some momentum. You can't just wake up and have a referendum. Like if there's an election, for example, and let's say, I don't know, a particular political party, a separatist party, wins all the states, then from there you can now use that momentum to call for a referendum. Right now, that has not happened.
Yes.
So if at all the referendum does happen, if people vote no, then vote to be counted, then it's no, and they stay in Nigeria. But if there's an overwhelming yes or a majority yes, then they leave. If at all the federal government allows it. And the United Nations and the international community rally around the new state.
Well, they have claimed that it's going to be a peaceful process. I don't know how that's going to be, but I think that we can come back to continue on this discussion.
Let's take a short break. When we return, I will give you my views on the issue of the referendum. We'll take a short break now. When we return, the morning show will continue with What's Trending with OG. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. And still with us in the studio is OG Affair with What's Trending. Well, before we went on break, we were talking about the request of the Ipob, Indigenous Peoples of Biafra, through Emma Powerful, the secretary, asking for a referendum to be organized by the United Nations. Now, the subject we're dealing with, basically, is self-determination. And self-determination, is an internationally recognized right by various UN conventions. Whether you are talking about Kosovo, or you are talking about East Timor, or you are talking about Cameroon. And it is indeed true that the United Nations can supervise referendums. The right of a people to determine their own future, to determine their own sovereignty. Now, two examples. In February 1961, the UN supervised the referendum to determine whether Northern Cameroon or Southern Cameroon would join Nigeria or join Cameroon. And that referendum was conducted. At the end of the day, when the votes were tallied, people can vote yes or no. At the end of it, Northern Cameroon joined Nigeria. Southern Cameroon, led by Ndeli and Co., joined Cameroon, the French-speaking Cameroon. Now, this was the decision over the British-occupied part of Cameroon at the time. In 1999, it was East Timor, and it was the president of Indonesia at the time who approached the United Nations to allow the people of East Timor to decide whether they would like to have special autonomy within Indonesia or have their own independence. And of course, they rejected special autonomy within Indonesia. In 2002, East Timor became independent on its own. And then you have the example of Kosovo and all of that. But whatever happens, there is no way that the United Nations can do a referendum inside Nigeria over and above the head of an existing sovereign. That is the Nigerian government itself. Now, would there be a referendum in Biafra? And how will it pan out? I know that there are many agitators from the eastern part of the country who say Nigeria has been unjust to Igbos in the Nigerian Federation, that Igbos have been marginalized, because at the basis of questions of self-determination, it's always about citizenship, it's always about justice, it's always about equity. Would they be able to get enough votes? Well, my gut feeling is that, look, most Igbos will probably not want to leave Nigeria. I may be wrong. And speaking for myself, I'd rather have Nigeria as it is, as a diverse nation, as this rainbow nation, multicultural. And I mean, a Nigeria without Igbos would not be the same Nigeria.
All right, but
and I hope that even if it is put to vote, that more Igbos would rather stay in Nigeria, because Igbos are already, completely enmeshed in the Nigerian Federation. They are part of the fabric of this country. And I think that the ordinary Igbo man does not share the same sentiments with Emma Powerful.
Well, you never know. You never know.
They might have to put it to the vote.
Yes, that's my own but then there's also the outcry of the allegation of the Christian genocide, which is what they are using as the propaganda to try to have this sovereign Biafra state. What is your take on that, Rufai?
I mean, people always have a reason for doing things, but I think I'd like to agree with Dr. Abati. We are better together as a nation, but it is incumbent on us to also look at the fault lines of why these agitations and ask ourselves, have the nation been fair to the Igbos? And if we can answer that question, we should start to look inwards in terms of infrastructural development and the likes. Because all over the world, like Dr. Abati said, you're going to have agitations. I think in Spain, they even had a separatist movement for the Basque region. The group was called Escodita Azacatasuna, ETA, pushing for the liberation of the Basque region. Even in Canada, as you think Canada is all peaceful, people in Quebec too have been pushing for nationhood, but they're always underlining issues. Despite the works the Trudeau's father, Elliot Trudeau, did, Justin Trudeau's father, to bring Canadians together. So there are underlying issues. I think what we should focus on really is the underlying issues, how we can, help to show that we are a true federation, develop the East, make the East a heartland, whatever is due to them, we should give them and make them one part of this nation. Like you said, Igbos are too vested. I mean, if they leave, who are they going to leave Ladipo market for? That's a big question I want to ask.
Well, they'll create their own Ladipo market.
A lot of Igbos own properties. They are even intermarried here. Let's not deceive ourselves, but let's also look at the factors for those agitations. Because if you ask me, honestly, I would say to a large extent, those factors of agitation have not been addressed. It still looks like an unequal country. Some people are put down, some people are put on. I love my Igbo brothers. Kedu?
At the same time, Yorubas are also asking for Oduduwa Republic.
Yes.
So that's why those 4 lines that, Rufai referred to are important. We need to remake the nation.
Yes.
Do we really have a nation in which every part has a sense of belonging?
What you said, Rufai, reminded me of Scotland. There's a sense of disenfranchisement with Scotland, and their referendum, everybody was so convinced that Scotland would vote to leave the United Kingdom, and they didn't. So in spite of a lot of, disenchantment that people have, I guess you're right. Many of us are creatures of habit.
Yeah.
And we're so intertwined as we are, yeah.
Then nothing is given.
It's not.
That's the point
it's really
we're
not.
making.
Yes.
In the example of
Scotland, yes.
All right. Well, let's take another story from Pakistan now, where a video surfaced online showing a man said to be Nigerian tied up and tortured as he cried out to a brother at large, whom he claimed used him as collateral for drugs. Reports say the unidentified man was filmed by a gang who threatened to kill him by July 10th if his brother did not come out of hiding to satisfy the financial obligation the duo entered with the gang. The graphic video, which has made rounds on social media, has caught the attention of Nigerians in Diaspora Commission. In a statement via Twitter, the commission said they have escalated their mission in Islamabad for further investigation. I don't know if you had the balls to watch this graphic video.
I can't.
It was horrific.
I can't watch
really horrific video. But I am glad that the Nigerian Diaspora Commission has responded to the video. But there are allegations that the commission in Islamabad is closed due to COVID-19. So I don't know what's going to happen here. July 10th is around the corner. It's really a sad situation for this gentleman.
I mean, it's horrific. Why would his own brother do that if it's really as it's been alleged?
Yes.
How can his own brother use him for collateral?
Horrible.
It's hard to even get your mind around.
I needed to, show this because apparently they are asking for whoever knows this gentleman to come forward and the brother to come forward to try to save this guy's life.
And settle whatever it is.
Settle whatever it is that they're going. I mean, he's a Nigerian.
Well, I think it is reassuring to hear that the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission is already seized of this matter and is trying to make efforts to address it. And the fact that the mission in Islamabad has been shut down because of COVID-19 does not mean that the diplomats in the place can still not take up the matter. It's not as if they've been recalled home. They are on the ground in Islamabad and they know the appropriate channels through which they can lodge a complaint with the Pakistani authorities. Now, the gentleman is quoted as having said July 10th is the date that he has been given. That's tomorrow, right?
I believe so.
That's about 24 hours from now.
Wow.
And I hope that that will not happen.
Yes.
Because what is seen in that video that is being circulated is clearly a case of torture. Perhaps you may also say kidnap. Perhaps you can also add